Hi, everybody. It is Thursday, which means we are so lucky to have another chat with Gabriela. Hooray!
Hello.
That is Gabriela Hernandez, of course, the owner and CEO of Besame Cosmetics. Almost said Gabriela Cosmetics. All right. Uh, and she's here, and today we are going to do something we've done before, but it's a little different than our normal videos, where it'll be all about business tips and entrepreneurship and any questions you have on that, because Gabriela has started her own business. She's just done so many things, even outside of Besame. And Besame in and of itself, she has so much information about. So please put your questions in the comments for anything you want to know about starting a business, what it's like being an entrepreneur, what Gabrielle's day is like, any of that kind of stuff is totally welcome. So please put those in the comments and we will be getting to all of them. So go ahead and do that. We have lots of hellos already from
Hello.
Elizabeth and Serenity, people from Flagstaff and Texas. Yeah, San Francisco. Ooh, fancy. That seems so fancy. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for watching. And yes, I'm Amber, and I'll be taking your questions and giving them to Gabriela. So you can think of those and put those in there whenever you want. And Gabriela, you brought up you wanted to do another one of these videos. Our first one was so fun and cool. You had so much information that I really had never heard before, despite reading all kinds of books on entrepreneurship and such. And what makes you so interested in answering these questions for people and talking about small business?
Well, I think people are kind of getting more inspired to do their own businesses, especially now since a lot of people have lost a job that they had in different companies, and so I think it's kind of become top of mind to maybe go and do something for yourself. That doesn't involve being employed by another company, and maybe it's an interest that you had, but then since you are currently not working, it's a good time to maybe think about those things and see if you can put those things into motion, since you are at home and have the time to work on it. A lot of people seem to be interested in trying these things to see if they can make those ambitions become a reality.
Yeah. And what made you first go into working for yourself even before Besame? Because you've been an art director, you've
Yeah.
studied law, you've studied all kinds of things. What kind of was that first push for you?
I think, I mean, I've always been more of an independent thinker and kind of kind of self-driven type of person. So it, it was always kind of attractive to me to be self-employed, because I wanted to control my, how I spent my time and what I did. So that kind of was always an attractive thing to do. My dad was always self-employed, so he encouraged me to also be self-employed, and he got that from his dad. So it was kind of a generational thing of my grandfather and my father and all kind of wanting to be the businessman or their own boss, and the pluses of that type of lifestyle. So I've always been kind of attracted to that kind of lifestyle, even though it obviously has its ups and downs, especially as a freelance artist and that kind of work
Sure.
that I had at the beginning. But it's still kind of you kind of make your own destiny kind of thing.
Oh, I love that. We have a question from Araceli, I believe, and if I pronounced your name wrong, please correct me in the comments. Asks, what advice would you give to someone who just launched their business a few weeks ago?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess it depends what kind of business. Is this a product business or a service business?
Ooh, I am not sure. So
Yeah,
Araceli,
because
please let us know in the comments, specifically
yeah,
to you and everybody. If you have questions or like, I don't know, maybe it's just specific to me, ask it anyway. It'll still be
yeah.
really helpful.
I mean, it's both things. Obviously, marketing and promotion are the main things that you should be doing whenever you are starting any kind of business, because obviously you want people to know about what you're doing. When you're selling a product, you kind of you have a way of communicating that, and then when you're selling a service, there's a way of communicating that kind of business. So depending on what you're selling, the goal is always to get more people to know about you. So marketing should really be your main concern, because there's one like an old adage that everybody says in any business class that I've ever taken is sales solves everything. So you know, which is true.
Yep.
It is true. It's the same as cash flow solves a lot of things. So it's the same. So you want to make sure that you have that going on, because you need those sales in order to propel the business forward. Marketing should really be what you spend a lot of your time on in order to to get people to know you.
Right, yeah.
Obviously, this is besides actually making your product or developing your product, or actually, I'm assuming that you have the product ready to sell if it's a
Yeah, she says
product.
her
Yes.
friend, she's asking for a friend and she just launched a candy business.
Oh, candy.
So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, so it's a product. So you're selling candy.
Hmm.
Okay. So again, when you think about something like a candy, which is a commodity product, and by that I mean like you can buy candy anywhere. Basically, there's all kinds of candy, but it's basically available in most places that you go to. You can buy candy. So it's a readily available product. Like other products that you buy everywhere. So what you need to do when you go into an industry that is so widely available to people is to really carve out a niche for yourself as a special kind of candy,
Mm.
or a candy that is different than the other candies. Basically, that's kind of what I'm trying to say with this. So you need to be able to tell your consumer, what is different about your candy than everybody else's candy. What makes your candy special? Does it have a secret recipe? Does it have different ingredients that other candy doesn't have? So look for attributes in your product that would differentiate it from other products in that same category, and then tell your customers about those things, and use all your social media and your marketing to tell customers all about all these different things about your particular candy, or that you maybe do this candy and you give part of your profits to charities or other things. So there's a reason why somebody would want to support you. So you want to give your customers what are those reasons that they would want to support your business. That's what you need to communicate, I think. And so that would be, I think, your kind of your priority when you do this. And I'm assuming that you have your candy and you figure out your production and that you have it already packaged and it's for sale. If you don't, then you have to take care of that first, because you don't want to start marketing something that you don't actually have ready to sell, or it's not in a finished
Right.
state to sell, let's say, for example. So you want to make sure your product is finished, and then definitely market.
Ooh, excellent. That is, and that's, yeah, particular to any kind of products, that advice, candy or anything else that's a commodity, especially. That's so
Yes.
cool. Wonderful. Elizabeth had a question. What are some good classes to take if you plan on opening a business in the future?
Well, you know, for depending on the type of business, again, what you're doing, um, obviously the main classes that you would want to have for any business is really an accounting class. So you know how to do your accounting. Not that you will always do your own accounting, because when you can afford it, it's preferable that you hire an accountant to help you, because accounting gets very, very intricate and tedious once your business is at a certain point. So you would need to hire an accountant sooner or later. But at first, you should know how to do your accounting, and you should understand the numbers and what they mean. Accounting is a very important skill that you should have, even if you later on don't necessarily do it yourself. A marketing class would be kind of a good thing to know also, because it is business kind of is all about, cash flow and managing your money, but also marketing. So a marketing course that would teach you like the basics of marketing would be very helpful as well. And then a business course of any kind, of how business is transacted, like how to deal with banks, what are different types of loans and different types of financial information would be very, very helpful to you as well.
And did you take a lot of courses in business and such before you started, or were these things you kind of learned along the way?
Well, I had some business courses in college, but I didn't really. I mean, most of the business that I learned, it was really through making a lot of mistakes personally, or by reading. So reading is another way to do it. So you can always get books and study on your own all of these things, because there's plenty of books that will teach you all of these things. It's just that you have to put in the time and be dedicated to read them and understand them, and then put them into practice.
Yeah. Yay, we've got some more questions coming in. We have Louisa. She asked, with everything going on in the world right now, would you say it's a good time to start your own business?
People ask me that all the time, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because a lot of really big businesses have started in downturn economies. So it's not really, it's not like it's ever a good time or a bad time necessarily. It really depends on the business, and it depends on what you're doing and what kind of thing you're doing. If again, it's a service or a product. It's a product people need, people want. So yes, it might be a little bit more challenging if a lot of people are unemployed, because if, for example, let's say you want to start a restaurant business, this would not be a good time for that.
Yeah.
Because of what's going on. Excluding obvious things like this, where you're going to see that there's going to be a dip in the market on these sectors because of all of the repercussions of COVID and what's going on. So, like travel agents and restaurants, I wouldn't necessarily advise you to go into those businesses. But any other business that has to do with a consumer need, that is still something that people will need regardless of the time period, I think it's totally viable. And you might actually have an easier time getting your business started, because you can maybe capture more of the attention of people that are home, that are not at work, and that maybe want a distraction or want something or need help. There's so many people that have gotten quite a bit of business helping people with emotional issues at this point. Psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, tutors. All these people that all of a sudden are necessary for a lot of people. So their businesses are definitely going well now because of all the need around. So it really kind of depends on what it is. It depends on what kind of business. But I don't think that necessarily you would be discouraged because of the time, if it's not something that is necessarily impacted, like the industries that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, wonderful. Sarah asks, sorry, I'm kind of running through questions, but we've got some good questions here.
Sure.
Sarah asks, what are some of the aspects of Besame that take the most energy to create? what have been some of the pitfalls of Besame you'd want to warn others about?
Okay. Well, for us, because we're extremely design driven, we spend, or I spend, a ton of time on our design and our manufacturing. Probably way more time than most other businesses would spend on it. But it's because it's kind of the core of what we do is to have very interesting and unique designs. So I spend a lot of time on that, probably more than I should on it. But that's, something that I enjoy and I put into the company. And especially with, license collections, I spent so much time on those, on the research side, and on trying to do really unique things that, most licensees do not do that kind of work, because it would be way too expensive to have designers working on something for so long. But I work, sometimes, a year or 18 months on these things. So I definitely put a lot of time, probably too much time on the design side of things. And then the second part was mistakes that I've made.
Or pitfalls you could warn others.
Well, pitfalls are, you have to remember who your customers are, and who is your niche and what do they want, because sometimes you get, seduced by having your product in this particular store or something. But you know what? If your customers don't shop that store, even though that store sounds really cool to you, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put your products there, because your customers will never buy them because they don't go to that store. So you kind of have to remember, what products your customers would like, so that you don't make products that are outside of what they would want. And also where they shop, so that you would put your items where they would go and buy them, so that you really kind of keep that customer in mind. And so it's easy to kind of, again, get tempted by different things and saying, well, it would be so cool to put it here and to do this there. But that's not your, those are not your people, basically. So it's very hard. It's very hard. It's kind of an uphill battle when you do that, to get those other customers that really don't know anything about you and maybe are not attracted by your concept to actually turn into customers. And you would spend a lot of time and money to do that. And it probably would be money that you could have easily spent way less to get more customers that really do love you and your product, instead of trying to get the ones that really don't. They are not attracted by your concept. So that's kind of one of the lessons to keep in mind, like a lot of people have said, well, it's like, I want my product to sell at Sephora, but sometimes, that store is not appropriate for the type of product you sell, or maybe your customers don't shop that store, or they prefer to shop online, or they prefer to shop at another type of store. So you kind of have to keep that in mind, even though it sounds so tempting to say, I want to be in this store, I want to be in that store. Keep in mind that you do need those products to sell through, and you need to make sure your customers are there to purchase them. So that's one of the mistakes. Another one is trusting people that might guide you the wrong way. So make sure that, it's very easy at the beginning, when you don't know exactly what you're doing, to have consultants come to you and say, oh, well, I know how to do this. You should do the X, or Y, Z, and this is what will make you money. And the problem with those is that they just tell you those things, and then they get their money for giving you, a sheet of information, but then they walk away. So if that didn't work out for you, you're the one holding the bag at the end, because they're not going to be responsible if for some reason you do what they said and then that doesn't result in sales for you. They don't, that's not what they're there for. They just kind of give you advice and walk away. So be careful with those types of things, because some people might not have your best interest at heart, or might not even understand your audience. So they might be giving you advice that is good for one type of product, but not really good for your product, because they don't know your market, they don't know your audience. So
Interesting. Because Sarah asked that question, and Sarah asked a lot of questions
sure.
in our last one, and I asked what her business is, and she's building a property to help people create with different art mediums and sell what
Okay.
they make, like an adult art camp sanctuary.
Okay.
That's kind of the
Okay.
thing she's building, just to give you
That's
advice
cool.
or just to give you insight. And I was also just curious because Sarah's
Yeah.
been here and asked so many questions, but that's really cool. An adult art camp sanctuary. I think that's a very cool
That's
idea.
really cool idea. And after this, when the restrictions are lifted on this, I think people would be very likely to want to go to something like that, and
Yeah.
kind of be outside and be in nature and draw and paint and do all these things. I mean, definitely, I think it's a very enticing type of thing to do. So I would definitely advertise that on an emotional level, as a well-being type of thing, as a mental healing, mental health type of thing, of getting yourself centered and exploring your creativity and passion. You know.
I love that. I know I want to go now. That sounds great.
Yeah, I know. Sounds
That
good.
sounds fun. Let's go. Sarah,
Yeah, let's
get
go.
get a space ready. We'll be there. Cool. The makeup or the makeup or breakup blog. They asked about if you have any particular books you recommend on business or marketing. Any of
Oh
those. If there are
boy.
any, it's hard because Gabriela she reads so many books. We just did a video last night where we had like the voters could vote between 10 characters, and we were just doing one character. Gabriela read all 10 books to prepare for the video in like 2 weeks time. It was anyway, so Gabriela reads a ton of books. So it's probably really
Yeah.
hard to choose. But yeah, or you can think about that in the back of your mind. And if there's one that pops
Yeah.
up, you can always.
I mean, there's so many that I read over the years. I mean, there's, I can't even. I mean, I could probably give you a list, and then we can put it up somewhere of my favorite ones, because
Yeah.
there's so many. I love Malcolm Gladwell. I love all his
Uh-huh.
books. He's one of my favorite authors, and it's not necessarily on business, but it's kind of a frame of mind and how to think about things, and
Uh-huh.
how things affect other things. That you might not, really ponder, thinking of consequences, and how things are interacting with each other. He's a fascinating writer. So I read all his books, and I love all his books. So any books by Malcolm Gladwell I would recommend. Let's see. Martin Lindstrom is always one of my favorites. All his books I also read, and he's a kind of a marketing guru type of guy that travels the world and advises companies on behaviors of people all around the world, and what they do and why they
Oh.
do and why they buy things and all this stuff. So he's got one called Small Data. It's very good. It's about like
Oh.
behaviors of consumers and little tiny things that tell you a lot about what people are thinking, or what they would buy or not buy. Again, fascinating books that he writes. So any one of his books. Biology is another one that he wrote a few years ago. Very good book, again, about like buying behaviors of consumers, in how he analyzes that. So look him up. Martin Lindstrom is really, really good. So those two, I think, are some of my favorites. But there's so many more. I mean,
No,
it's hard to
it's
say.
hard.
It's hard to say. There's so many of them, but those two are a good place to start, though.
Yeah, and that's still a lot of choices to choose from,
Yes,
even with just those two
yes,
authors, for sure.
yes.
And
Oh yeah,
yeah, if you want, in the future, Gabriela might put up a list. She might put that up on her Instagram. So
yeah,
if you want to
definitely.
follow her, she's at Besame Girl, and she also often puts up close-up shots of things we do in these videos. So it's a
Hmm.
really good place to look for that. Also, I just wanted to shout out before when we were talking about design, just to like toot your own horn, Gabriella, that we're nominated for a Beauty Independent Beacon Award for design, for best design of a cosmetic. So if you want to, I'll put I will put the link to that in the chat in a moment. But if you want to vote for us, that would be great. You don't have to, of course, but I mean, it's pretty great
Yeah.
packaging. It's pretty great design. So I'll put that in there in just a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, Makeup or Breakup blog said maybe you should have a book club once a month, like picking one of those books and discussing it on
Oh,
here, which
oh, definitely. That's a
maybe.
great idea. Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, any of those books. There's so, yeah, like I said, there's so many, and all of them kind of tackle different things, and they have different perspectives on how they go about this information. So there's a lot there, and I would love to share some of my favorite ones.
Hmm. Okay, we had Sarah asked, "What are your long-term goals, Gabriella?"
Long term, okay.
Yep.
Well, I definitely am working towards getting more categories into our line so that we have more product in different categories. So I'm trying to go back to having all these categories that we've had in the past, but we kind of discontinued several products. So I'm trying to bring back those categories. So I've been working on kind of strengthening our core line, and also doing some really interesting collections that have to do more with women, with their iconic women series. So I'm working a lot on that, on iconic women and really really interesting, historically relevant women. So I'm kind of excited to work on that project. So I think both of those things are kind of what I'm working long term, is to kind of strengthen our core, and also do more interesting, adult collections, which we are working on for next year. And some things, it's a lot of our more interactive things that we had in mind obviously are all kind of put on hold. So until we figure out when all of this situation will get better, we'll see when we can kind of resume doing more in-person things, and more interactive things, which I'm looking forward to.
Yay. And Sonia asked, will the House of Besame bombs ever come back?
Yes, we do have bombs coming back, and we are working on them. I'm working on that formula because I wanted to really strengthen it to have more benefit to your lip and to the skin of your lips. So I'm working on making that a lot more effective at actually helping the skin on the lips
Yeah,
to heal, from different things.
that's great. And that's it's still very hot here in Los Angeles, and the idea of a very good lip balm is
Yes.
very
Yes.
helpful, a very helpful idea to me right now, for sure.
Oh, I know. Oh gosh, it's super hot. Yeah.
So Goddess Justice 16, she had a question about bringing back older collections like the Agent Carter collection. Can we first maybe explain just a little bit about why it can be difficult to bring back some of these character collections you've done?
Yeah, the issue with Agent Carter, and a lot of people ask me about that, is that that collection was really kind of centered around the show. It was around the Agent Carter show that was on TV. So that show is no longer on TV. So we can't really work on that again, because that is not an available kind of property for us to be able to work on anymore, because that whole thing has kind of been dissolved. Even though the character of Agent Carter is still a character, but but she's in the movies of Marvel, not on necessarily on a TV show. So they're kind of two separate things. So what we worked with in the past, we can't really work on again because it's not really available through us, because Marvel doesn't have that part available any longer. So if we did something with that character, you would have to go back to their movies, and that's a bit more time consuming to figure out exactly how we would go about doing that.
Yeah. And it's just a much more, there's just a lot of layers to the process of these license collections. And like
Mm-hmm.
Gabriela talked about before, with like making the design so detailed and
Yeah,
everything, that, you have to get rights from a lot of different people, and then they
exactly.
can only use the rights for so long. So there's a lot.
Yes,
So it would be cool if it was just like, yeah, send it back to the factory. Like, let's
right.
get some more.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
it's
very
difficult. Yeah,
complicated.
it's very difficult. Yeah, especially when there's actors involved. Because they we're not allowed to use them for different things because just the studio doesn't allow it, or the actors and their agents don't want them to be used for certain types of products. So there's so many limitations. So it's not up to us a lot of the times, is because really the studio doesn't want to go that direction, or doesn't want us to go that direction. So there's definitely a lot of exterior limitations to what we can do with some properties. Uh, Other ones we have a little bit more leeway to do more creative things, but some of them are a bit more entailed in the rights and in the way that they want things portrayed or not portrayed. So we try, we're trying our hardest to do different things. We know that everybody loves these characters, and we're trying, but it's just it takes a little bit more time sometimes to get to an agreement because
Yeah.
because of all the limitations.
Yeah. And Makeup or Breakup blog did say they appreciate the special editions just because we're honest about it. Saying
Yes,
that sometimes people say special edition and like, wait, wasn't that 5 years ago? And you're
right,
still doing
right,
it?
right,
So it's very
right.
true when something is limited at Besame, it's limited
Yes,
because Lucy
yes,
lipsticks, I think, are the first time we ever even got to make a
yes.
second batch.
Yes, and I only did it because Lucy asked me to,
Yeah. Lucy
because
Arnaz.
Lucy Arnaz asked me
Yeah.
to, because it just sold out so fast, and she was just telling her followers and all the people who
Mhm.
follow her on like Lucy Legacy and all that about this products. And even they have retailers that sell Lucy merchandise, and we weren't able to give any to any of those people because it just sold out so quickly on our own site. So she asked me if I could please rerun them so that she could have them for all these other people that didn't get even a chance to see them. And because it went so fast, I told her I would rerun those two colors. But that's the only thing that I
Yeah.
redid. So the rest of the collection, it won't be remade.
Yeah.
And this will probably be the last batch that I do of them anyways. But I did remake those two shades just because of the situation and what happened. And I knew that a lot of people were disappointed because they didn't get to have one.
And it's another example of with business things right now, you just never know because who would have thought that in a time where you have to wear a mask over your face, that a
Yeah,
lipstick would sell out in 24 hours. It
I
was so
know.
pop, but it did
Yeah.
because, people loved it. We're so excited about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's why when you hear rules and things of other people saying, "Well, no, this never works," or "This is," you know what? Don't ever take that at face value because your situation might be different than other people's. It's all over the internet that lipstick sales are down because people
Hmm.
can't wear this thing. Well, like you saw, people did buy out the Lucy lipstick and it didn't seem to matter. So I think that you should just follow your own, counsel and a lot of things when it comes to kind of general information that you see on the news or reporting of any kind, because again, things are slanted to whoever wrote that article and maybe on the scope of what that article was dealing with, so you don't really know how that really impacts a niche brand that has a different following, So it's different when you talk about like maybe Maybelline lipstick sales, for example, or a different brand of lipsticks that has a different fan base.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Let's see. Elizabeth asked about Portrait Peach. Portrait Peach will be back.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
it's not going to be back in the next couple months or anything, just because things are very slow. And Gabriela is putting out a
Yes.
lot of new and exciting things coming soon, so it will be
Yes.
back. Um,
Yes.
it'll be a little bit of a wait, but it will be back. And thank you for your patience
Definitely.
on that. Oh, and then I think this may be one of our last questions, but if you have a question, put it in now for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Sarah asked, was there something you've done or created that you regret now? That doesn't have to be about Besame. If there's any, I don't know either.
Well, I think let's see.
Well, it's hard because
A long,
mistakes
yeah,
even.
yeah. It's just like there's a lot of things. I mean, we did a line of product a long time ago that was called Voluptuous, and it was a lipstick, and it came with a pencil. It was kind of, I guess, ahead of the time because then Kylie did it with hers, and she sold a ton of them because she had the audience on it. But we had done one like that where it came together in a set and had a lip brush, a pencil, and lipstick. And it actually had a lot of kind of natural oils and things in the lipstick. So it was kind of a nourishing lipstick as well. And then the liner was slightly darker so that you could make the lip look fuller. And we made it and we had it in a nice box. We had a different shape for that top of that. And it sold, but it never sold really that well for us. And it's because I think we kind of went a different direction. We tried to go with more of a mass market type of product. So our core customers, I don't think got enough out of that, and so we didn't get the support that we thought we would get from that product. Um, so again, you learned a lot from that because we put a lot of money into that product, but it didn't perform as well as we would have liked.
Yeah. And I think that's probably inevitable for anybody in business.
Yeah.
If
Oh yeah.
some things are not always gonna hit
Yeah.
huge right
Yeah.
away, and
Yeah.
you have to be able to persevere and ride out those moments
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
you always learn that when you look back on it, it becomes obvious why it didn't work, and then you learn
Hmm.
from that, and you go, well, that didn't work because I didn't think of the customer. I didn't think enough about the customer and know exactly what they would want and how this product didn't really have all the attributes of things I had purchased before.
Hmm.
And maybe they didn't want a different formula. They wanted our formula. So things like
Hmm.
this, it's kind of like when Coke did other flavors of Coke and people said, "Oh, I don't
Yeah.
want that. I want regular Coke." So it's kind of that way. You do things and then afterwards you go, well, that didn't work, and I understand why it didn't work. So that's one of the lessons is definitely keep the customer in mind and remember what the customer buys from you and why they buy that from you, and make sure that you're not giving them something that they really don't want.
Yeah. And I bet the people at Coca-Cola spent a lot more money on new Coke that they
Yeah.
regret. I think they lost. quite a bit more
Yes.
on that one than any lipstick.
Oh
Whew.
yeah, no, I think so. I think, yeah, that was a bigger mistake. That
Oh,
was like,
that was
it's
a
still a
big
mistake, but
one.
that was a big mistake.
Whew.
But yeah, but you can see that, that it happens all the time. People do things that don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Another thing that doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes is people jumping categories. And it's not easy to convince a consumer, for example. They know us as making lipsticks and cosmetic products, but if tomorrow I started to make shoes, you know,
Yeah.
people would go, well, why would I buy shoes from them? They're not a shoe company. You know what I mean? So the brand only stretches so long, and people think that that it can't stretch to anything, and most of the time it can't, because you have credibility within your category, but not
Yeah.
necessarily in other categories. So you have to be careful of not jumping categories, because your customers most likely won't follow you to other categories.
Well, we have last two questions. The last
Yeah,
one's super simple, but the first one is, what are some artists that you've looked up to?
artists. O'Keeffe is one of my favorites, and Frida Kahlo too. Salvador Dali is one of my favorites as well. Um, let's see, who else? Miro, I like. Man Ray, I like. Boy, all kinds of artists. I
Sure.
don't know.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
have a
bit.
very like diverse taste in
Oh
art too.
yeah.
I feel like you
Oh
take a lot of
yes.
inspiration from different places.
Different places, yeah. Picasso, some of his work. I mean, I like the classics, obviously, but I like Hockney. I like some of Hockney. Harding. Uh, I I actually saw him paint at Art Center, because I was at Art
Oh,
Center when he came and painted a mural there. So I watched
oh,
him. I
cool.
watched him paint. It was really cool.
Wow.
I always remember that. Yeah, the guy paints freehand. He painted the mural freehand. It was just amazing to watch him paint, because he just had a white brush and just went at it. Didn't have
Wow.
anything, not even a sketch. It's really really wild. It was fun.
And is there anything in particular that you find inspirational about those artists themselves, or is it their art that moves you more?
I think it's their art, and also the way that they express it, and the meaning in the art, and the way that they work with color, and
Hmm.
the juxtaposition of shapes and
Hmm.
sizes, and textures, um, and you know Dali, because of, obviously, the mastery of stroke, and that it's just like the feeling of it, is so emotional, his paintings. So it's just it's just that the way that the colors and the textures and everything works together to make this kind of harmonious thing that you're looking at, and it's it's balanced, and it's beautiful to look at, and it's peaceful. There's something about composition that really that strikes me when I look at art. um, uh, and obviously, skill too. Obviously, the skill that is that the artist has in actually putting that into a canvas. But I love all kinds of art. I mean, I'm inspired by pretty much all artists. Really, that's why I'm always looking at reference. Whether it's art in a canvas, or art that was actually a compact, or a box, or a
Yeah.
perfume, or anything else that was done before, that still has art in artistry on the way it was put together. So I'm inspired by all art, anything visual.
Mhm. That's wonderful. And then last question is very simple. It's just, what lipsticks are we wearing? So I'm
Okay.
wearing the Lucy, the What a Peach lipstick. And which one are
Oh,
you wearing?
Victory Red.
Yay,
I'm wearing
Victory
Victory
Red.
Red. Victory Red.
Beautiful.
Victory. I told somebody yesterday. I was on a podcast yesterday, and I was like telling, because she asked me too, and I told her, um, if I'm feeling kind of like overwhelmed or kind of down because of all the news and things. And I like to wear brighter colors because they kind of cheer me up. So I've been wearing a lot of the brights, because I usually, for more business things, I wear like more the red velvet or, forever red or colors like that. But lately I've been wearing just brights, just victory red, Besame red, red hot red, just all the brights, just because they kind of cheer me up, so it's kind of a way to lift your spirits a bit.
Yeah. And then my silly question is, are those little dragonflies on your shirt or are they
Yes,
birds?
they
I just
are.
love your shirt.
Yeah, they
It's so
are.
cute.
They're little
Little
dragonflies and
dragonflies.
things.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
yes, they
Love
are.
it.
Yes.
So fun and free. Yay. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. Those were great questions. That
Yeah.
was so fun. Loved all those questions so much. And Gabriela, thank
Yes.
you for sharing a lot
Oh,
of
thank
details
you.
and specific information for people. I think that was very helpful. And I'm so excited about whatever businesses you guys are thinking up or coming up eventually. It's so exciting
Definitely. Oh,
to have all of
definitely.
that.
Oh,
So,
definitely. Yeah. Go for it, please. We need
yeah.
new things and we need new ideas and things. So, yes, whatever you have, bring that creativity forward.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much. We will be back next week, next Thursday. I hope you can join us again.
Mhm.
And until then, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.